Hello there. Welcome to Technique Tuesday. My name is Ali Board. I'm an artist, an author, and an educator, and it's great to have you with me. Now, just in case this is your first stumble across Technique Tuesday, this is the fabulous community that we have built up over the last 5 or 6 years now, where we come together sometimes once a month, twice a month, 3 times a month, even sometimes, to bring you either my latest experiments or a tutorial or a demonstration, anything that we can do to help to build the community and answer your art related questions. Now, if you're watching me live, which you might be doing on YouTube, do let me know where you are watching from in the chat. If you can access that live chat on your debate, you'll see on your device even, you'll see a lively debate, that's what I was aiming for, going on from the lovely members who tune in. Often use their wealth of knowledge as well, because it helps tremendously to answer any questions that you might have, just in case I don't get to them quite quickly. Now we have various people in the room. Some people multitasking from the looks of it this morning. Good morning to all of you. Now, if just in case you've not visited before, let me just very, very quickly, don't disappear on me. Let me very, very quickly pop over to my website just to show you where you can find the information in future. So when you go to my website, it might look slightly different to this on your device. You will be met with this page, with this little pop-up, and you'll see there already, I made some changes to my website in the last couple of days. You'll see there's a Technique Tuesday tutorial, which you can take part in as well. And if you click on that Find Out More button, that will take you straight to the tutorials. There is all the information that you will need. And we've got one, if you're watching me live on Tuesday, the 3rd of June, 2025, we've got one next week, Manhattan Bridge in watercolor and ink. I'll be talking more about my New York theme of the month in just a second. But if you find the menu and you find Technique Tuesday, you'll see there's 3 different forms of Technique Tuesday there. There's the live broadcast, which is the one that we're doing right now. There's the tutorials, which I mentioned before. And there's tips and tricks as well, which is a pre-recorded demonstration that I tried to do on the 3rd Tuesday of the month. But today's Technique Tuesday has an accompanying blog. It also has a search facility on that blog. So if you've got a question that you think to yourself, oh, I wonder if Ali's ever answered this, you can stick just a few words, just a few sort of keywords like watercolor or glue or whatever it is that you want to search for into that search bar, and it will come up with any broadcast that I have done on that subject. And if that subject doesn't come up, then send me an email, ali@learningtopaint.co.uk, because then it can make an appearance in the next Technique Tuesday. So this is today's adding metal leaf to your projects. Again, I will describe more about it in a minute. There's a bit of extra information. The video will go there live, and there's a link to some of the materials that I am going to be using today. So lots of information there for you, and lots of archived information as well, so that if you've got a burning question at the moment, hopefully the blog will be able to answer it for you. Also, if you're anything like me, that you go, I know Ali did a thing, can't remember when that was and I can't find it, just put the parameters in the search bar and then hopefully it will find it for you. Lots of people popping up in the room today. It's great to have you here. I'm thinking that the weather has probably contributed to this, because I don't know what it's like, and it's a terribly British thing to talk about the weather, but I really like talking about the weather. Down here in Dorset, it's not the best. However, all the fields, my garden, my fish, all of those kind of things need the rain. So I'm not going to complain about it today. My chickens are complaining an awful lot, but hey ho. So let's crack on with this month's Technique Tuesday. Now, my theme of the month this month is New York. And actually, hopefully, I'll be returning to New York later in the year. It is an incredible city. If you ever have the opportunity to go, I can highly recommend it. Full of all sorts of unusual things, delightful people, lots of creatives, and I felt right at home there. And it gives me the opportunity to share with you some paintings around some of the iconic features of New York, which I'm sure you've seen in 1,000 television programs or movies if you've never been able to go. So this month we're tackling things like a New York taxi. We're going to look at painting the Statue of Liberty. And we've got obviously some buildings in there as well. Now, I understand that sometimes when you paint a building, the dreaded P word comes up. I get that. Perspective. It is a thing that quite a few people shy away from. And I get it. It's mathematical. It's quite ordered. If you don't really gravitate towards those kind of subjects, I get it. The Technique Tuesday tutorial that is happening next week will hopefully help you with all of those things, demystify it, so that the next time you go to tackle a building, it won't seem quite so overwhelming. But it's very hard to talk about New York without talking about buildings. So many iconic buildings out there, Empire State, the One World Trade Building, all of those kind of things, the delightful kind of older parts of New York. Now, one of the things that I wanted to share with you today was adding metal leaf to your projects. Now you might be thinking, well, how does that kind of tie up with New York? But I very often add metal leaf to my paintings to give them a bit of a pop, to give them an extra dimension. It's really interesting to kind of add. It's interesting how it kind of repels some paints you can paint over the top of. So I thought what I would do first is share a couple of examples of ways that I have used it, and then take you through my normal kit for where I use metallic colours, the kind of metal leaf that you might enjoy using on your projects. Maybe you've got that stashed away in the back of your art cupboard that you thought, oh, I don't know how to use that, and so I'm not going to touch it. Grab it back out, because I'm going to share that with you today. Now, the first thing that we're going to look at, let's go to that overhead camera. You'll see my first book lurking there, but I am going to show you this first. Let me get it into shot. This is a painting that I did quite a time ago now, but I'm hoping that you can see in the background there, yes, you can see everything else reflected in it as well, all my lights and cameras and everything. But can you see there in the background, we've got that silver leaf just kind of glinting away in the background. And I just love it. I'm not a fan of glitter. I don't particularly like glitter in a project. Don't know why, couldn't tell you. Don't like the use of it. Don't like the fact it goes everywhere. I know you can get biodegradable versions of glitter now, but I find it too glitzy myself. If you like to use it, absolutely knock yourself out. I prefer something that has a bit more of a shine and less of a glitter. That is where I go with it. But that's an example of where I've used it in a flower painting. Now, as an example of where I might use it in a building, I don't have to look very far. I can't show you the original of this painting because very wonderfully somebody invested in this painting. This is a copy of it. I called it 405 Lexington Avenue because that's actually the address of the building, but you might know it better as the Chrysler Building. And it was an enormous painting, absolutely huge. And it took me quite a time. But when I saw the Chrysler Building for real, the thing that really kind of hit me was the way that the sun bounces off the structure. It's quite difficult to walk down the streets of New York and not be completely overawed by the way that the sun is bouncing off this building. And you can see here in the book, I go through a few techniques to create this building. One of them being that I applied silver leaf to it. So you can see there in the book a close-up of this little section here of the building. And so these areas in here where you can see the highlights around the window frames, they're not white, they are actually silver leaf. So I'm hoping that this gives you a bit of inspiration as to how you might use metal leaf in your work. And just as a quick plug, of course, don't forget that you can still get my beginner's guide to watercolour with mixed media. I've just had some new stock on my website, which I will get uploaded for you today. But wherever you get your books from, and if you have got that book already, I would greatly appreciate a review, whether that's on Amazon or Bookmark or wherever you get your books from. Now, I'm going to be working on black watercolour paper for no other reason than actually where I start to paint on particular adhesives and where I start to add the leaf, you're going to be able to see it so much more clearly through that. That doesn't mean that I only ever work on black, quite the reverse. The Chrysler Building painting was actually done on white watercolour paper, but for the purposes of today's exercise, like I said, so you can see it a little bit better, I'll be working on my own black watercolour pad. But I'm going to pop that to one side for a second and introduce you to the many different types of metal leaf, gold leaf and the like that I seem to have acquired over the years. So let's get them all in for you, and I'll take you through these. Lots of people sharing their experiences on their visits to New York, which is great. Love it when people make recommendations. Now, I've got a whole assortment here, which I've genuinely just dragged out of a box that just says gilding. And I've had to remind myself of a few things, but there are some bags here that I have absolutely no idea what's in them. So let's go through these. Now, this is possibly one of your easiest entries into using metal leaf. Now, this is something that I bought, absolutely donkeys years ago, and I have to be really careful not to cough or sneeze when I take the lid off of this. This is like little shards of metal leaf, all popped together in a pot. And it's quite nice to have them like this, because you tend to get interesting combinations of colours. You can see in there I've sort of got coppers and golds and kind of greeny golds and a few turquoisey colours in there too. I'll demonstrate how to apply that in just a second. But that's a nice, easy way and a relatively inexpensive way of getting hold of some metal leaf. So they tend to be called gilding flakes. There's several makes on the market. Pebeo do one, and this is one by a company called, I think it's called the Gilding Flake, or Crafty Notions. It might go under as well, but not too expensive way of doing it. Now, this is metal leaf. Now, the difference between metal leaf and gold leaf might seem very obvious, but just in case you're still a touch confused about it, metal leaf just means probably that the metal that has been used to create it has probably been tinted or coloured in some way. So it's not gold. It's not going to be actual gold. So they can't call it gold leaf or copper leaf or silver leaf or any of those kind of things, because it isn't that. It is a metal leaf that has been colorized, tinted, that type of thing. Now, here's another one that I have used. I've used quite a lot in the past, again made by Pebeo. I seem to have several versions of this too. This one's a little bit different because this is what's known as a mirror leaf. And you can see it doesn't look like it's got any substance at all. And it's certainly not nearly as sensitive as some of the other things that we're going to get to. This is achieved, the way that you get this on is by burnishing it. And for that, I am going to, you can buy burnishes. I've got fancy burnishes. I've got wooden burnishes. But to be honest, a good old spoon will do the job just as well as anything else. You'll see me use that a lot later. This I've got in silver and green and blue and red and all sorts of things. Can be a touch temperamental, this one, but is kind of clean to put down. It's quite easy to put down, all of that kind of stuff. Now what have we got over here? Now, these pieces, let's just move that out of the way a second, are what's known as imitation gold leaf. And again, a little bit like the metal leaf, it isn't actual gold or actual silver. It's a bit better than metal leaf. in the terms of the quality. And let's just get a book out of here. This, is this loose or is this transfer? This is loose leaf. You can also get this stuff, which is called transfer leaf. It's already on a piece of paper. And again, you transfer that by burnishing it down, that type of thing. Isn't it beautiful? Isn't it just lovely? This is the loose leaf version. I clearly invested in some copper colour there. And from the looks of it, I haven't looked after this very well. This is silver. This is loose leaf as well. Lovely. Quite difficult to handle. There's lots of much more skilled craftspeople than I out there who will show you how to use slightly damp brushes to transfer this. I'm not using it in that refined a manner. I tend to pick pieces of it up and pop it down that way, bearing in mind that you really don't want an open window or a fan going while you're doing any of that stuff, in case you end up with it all over the place. Now I've just picked that bag up that I found in my gilding box and it's all just fallen out. So what have we got in here? And I promise you, I have not been through this for years. I used to do a lot of gilding and gold leaf, but I haven't been through this stuff for I don't know how long. So there's another book of the loose leaf copper. I think I'm going to pop that over with the other stuff. Now, what have we got here? I'm hoping that we've got what I'm looking for. I'm going to end up covered in the stuff by the time we finish this today. Now in here, what have we got here? So we've got much smaller sheets of transfer. No, it's not transfer, it's actually loose. But I can tell from looking at it that it isn't actual gold. This is a metal leaf. It's a little bit thinner than gold. It's rolling up on the edge, which actual gold leaf doesn't tend to do. I'm not actually sure if I've got any actual gold in here. I'm going to have a look through. Going everywhere. No, it looks like this is all metal leaf because, as you can imagine, actual gold leaf or actual silver leaf does come with a price tag. And you can also get things like edible food grade metal leaf as well. So not obviously ideal to eat lots of it, but if you're into cake decorating and the like, the edible sort is very different from this. You really don't want to be popping this onto your cake decorations. So it looks like I have a wealth of loose and transfer metal leaf in all sorts of sizes and colours. So I've got plenty to use for a demonstration today. I'm going to have to get the Hoover in here afterwards, I think. But there's worse things than to be surrounded by lots of silver leaf, isn't there? I'm just looking in my box because I was absolutely convinced that I had some proper gold leaf, and I do. So here it is. And I'm going to take this out. Now, this is a little bit different. I knew that I had been gifted some. Now, this is not gold leaf. This is not actual proper gold leaf. This, as you will soon see in a second, as you can see, it is quite vintage. I was given this by somebody to embellish a piece of work that I was creating for them. And they wanted their sadly deceased relatives' materials to be used in the piece. But I'm going to pull this out so that you can see this is actual gold powder. Now, can you see the difference between the very, very kind of shiny nature of the metal leaf? Sort of, it looks a touch artificial, brilliant to use, and I use it all the time, in comparison to this one, which, if I remember correctly, was actually 18 karat gold powder. And so I keep that. They were very generous when I'd finished and they allowed me to keep all of it. So that is kind of reserved for those projects where I need to use the real thing, but is obviously reserved for special occasions because of the cost that is associated with it. So these things are just lovely to have, aren't they? And aren't I lucky that I get to be gifted something as beautiful as that. But I'm going to put that to one side because we're going to concentrate on the actual metal leaf. Now, I'm going to take you right through from the beginning all of the kinds of gold and silver things that I tend to use, because I want to quickly take you through why I choose them and the mixing and the application of them. I've got that gold powder everywhere. Also a good thing to think about if you are using any sort of metallic and you do have breathing issues, please wear a mask. Excuse me. Please you work in a ventilated space, all of that kind of stuff. Now, ordinarily, one of the easiest ways to get gold or silver down onto a surface is by purchasing something that is pre-mixed or something that is easy to apply. So we have a couple of examples here. I've got gold gouache. So that paint that is a little bit like posh poster paint, very opaque, goes on very smoothly. Let's squeeze just a tiny bit of it out into my palette so that you can see it. I'm going to need that again in a minute. You can add water to it. It will still stay water soluble when you have finished applying it. Nice and easy to use. Of course, there are variations where you could use gold ink or maybe gold acrylic paint. I just particularly like gouache because I like the way that it goes on. It's really smooth. When it's dry, I want to go back in and I want to edit it, I can do that very simply by taking a damp brush in and smudging those edges. So I find that very useful. Now, this is also a really good product. This is made by Schmincke. This is called Aqua Bronze, and this comes in an oil format and an acrylic format as well. This is the sort of watercolor version of it. And you can tip a little bit of this out into your palette. It looks a bit more like metal leaf than perhaps the gouache, the acrylic or the ink does. And with the Aqua Bronze, you take a damp brush, you mix a bit of water in it. You can see there straight away it goes into a liquid form. And of course, you can play around with the consistencies of that. It's got quite an interesting property where it sort of all gathers, all the metallic parts of it all gather together. And when this goes down, you'll see in comparison to the gouache, I'll stick these in the close-up camera in just a second. It's much more, I don't even know, I was trying to think before the broadcast of all the different ways I could use to describe it. It's kind of more metallic. Let me get it into the close-up camera so that you can see it a little better. So if you look at the difference between the two, and let's try and get them in the light. So there's the same amount of light bouncing off both of those, but the gouache is the one at the top. So it's still quite shiny, but possibly a bit patchy. It would be nice for a subtle application. But the Aqua Bronze is that little bit more metallic, a bit more liquid. Now, the issue that I have with those is that, typical of me, I don't like either of them on their own. I don't find this bright enough, and I find this too bright. So it's a bit too for me. If I want this kind of effect, then I'll actually use metal leaf. So one of the things that I do, and you may have seen me discuss this before, is that I actually mix these two things together, because I like the gouache for its blendable properties. I like the Aqua Bronze because it's that bit more metallic, but this one is too metallic and this one is not metallic enough. So what do you do in those situations? Blup. You put them both together. You can play around with the consistencies and the parts, and that's what is inhabiting this pot. This is my go-to gold pot. And what's great about these products is that where they have kind of dried out in the pot, a little bit of water, I can pull them back together again with my brush. I'm just using a cheap brush, incidentally, today, because whenever you use metal leaf or glue or anything similar, that gold is ridiculously difficult to get off your brushes. So I'm just using something cheap. You'll also see on my water, incidentally, can you see how those little bits of metal are floating on the water, and you really don't want to get those on your best watercolor or acrylic brushes. So I'm keeping things separate today. But if I mix these two together and then I add that kind of in between the two, it goes on much more easily than the aqua bronze on its own. It is more metallic than just the gouache on its own, but not as glitzy as this. So I'll apply that and put it down. Just get as much of it out of my brush, and you'll see that I can use the tip of my brush to smudge that and blend that so that I can get blended out versions of it or more subtle versions of it. Or if I was using it in a vignette, which we talked about last month, then obviously I can soften it to sort of appear and disappear. And if I show you that in the close-up camera, you can see the difference between all of them. It's not quite so obvious in the camera because I promise you this is shinier than this one, but you can definitely see the difference between this and the gouache on its own. And believe me, I've got every brand of gold gouache, as you can imagine. I've just discovered that actually I prefer to mix the aqua bronze with it. And so I hope that is a technique that you might experiment with. Now, to get other types of gold down, anything that is a leaf, so whether that is your gilding flakes like this, or your transfer gold, or whatever it is, you need to have some sort of adhesive. Now, if you already have a cupboard full of adhesives, don't rush out and buy something brand spanking new. It is perfectly possible to use your PVA glues or your Bindex or whatever it is, or a medium, an acrylic medium. And so you can apply these, stick your metal leaf over the top, and absolutely job's a good one. The disadvantage of these is what's known as open time. So open time particularly relates to products where you want them to stay wet or tacky for a particular period of time, so that when you come to stick whatever it is you need to stick over the top, it will still be sticky after you have applied it. So Bindex, PVA glue, Pritt stick, any of those types of adhesives, they don't have an open time. The idea is that you put them on, they're sticky now, and when that dries, it's not sticky anymore. So this is what I would particularly recommend for using with something like the gilding flakes, because it doesn't matter. I can pick these up. Now I'm using a stencil brush for this. This is one of my little nylon stencil brushes. Static electricity, or what it should do, will hold the flakes against the brush. You can lay these into your glue. You can sprinkle them into your glue with your fingers. Now I like to use a stencil brush because it's brilliant for tapping the little flakes down onto the surface. So in its most basic form, a liquid glue or a stick glue or something like that will absolutely and utterly do the job. The difference being that if I wanted to use a transfer leaf or a loose leaf, I'm going to have my work cut out, because obviously this is only going to stay wet for so long. All right. So, but it is a nice kind of entry level version of getting glue onto your paper. Now there are a myriad of gilding glues. This is the Pebeo one, and I've chosen to show you this one today simply because it is kind of the most reasonably priced for your money. Now I've got some really kind of high quality gilding adhesives. I've got cheaper ones. This is the one, this is my sort of fallback one. And the reason that this is brilliant is because it has an open time. So I can put it on. I could even dry it with a heat gun if I wanted to. And then I could come back to it and it will still be sticky and tacky. It has that open time. It's designed to stay sticky. Now, the first challenge, which I didn't check before I went live, is getting the lid off it. There we go, bit of brute force. Now, this is water soluble, so you don't need to worry about using anything particularly fancy to wash your brushes out in. And it is very liquid. So I don't know if you noticed in the Bindex, I ended up, no matter how well you apply it, you end up with these ridges which take longer to dry. Whereas the gilding paste, which is what this is called, it's a sort of a weird name, isn't it, is so much thinner. Now I've managed to get a bit of sediment in there as well, which I shouldn't have done really, which is what all those little lumps and bumps are, but it'll be okay. So can you see it goes on very thin, nice and easy to apply. I can wash my brush out, but what that does mean is that it's going to settle much faster than the Bindex. I'm going to do 3 or 4 patches of this actually, because I want to show you a couple of different things, different ways of applying. This was exactly the product that I used on my Chrysler Building painting because it's so easy to apply. And where it's so thin as well, it means that I can use super fine brushes with it. And I'm going to be able to get into the nooks and crannies. If you can imagine how fine those window frames were on my building painting, I needed a fine brush and something nice and thin to be able to, you know, to get the finish that I wanted. I don't really want that to dry on my brush, so it's going to go over here. So can you see this one, just because of the nature of when it goes on, it's a little bit whiter, it's got more opacity to it, and when it dries it goes transparent, but I can feel that it is tacky on there. Now, I'm also pushing my luck because I'm doing this on watercolour paper. Excuse me. So what that is meaning is that it is absorbing more of the glue than I would like. So nice and easy to fix. I'm going to give it a second layer, because that has sort of sealed it. The first one has kind of sealed the paper. The second one, I'm hoping, will give me a bit more tack. The first layer was fairly tacky, but I think I can do better than that. Actually, the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a bit of a badly drawn pattern with my brush. Let's see if I can replicate that, because I want to show you a technique with the stencil brush as well. Got too much on my brush. Never mind, we can work that out. Managed to get some bubbles in it as well. At least you know this is a live broadcast. If I ever did anything like this, I would be editing out the application process. So that one's starting to dry. I put 2 layers on that. Let's put another layer over here on this one. Not drying quite so quickly, which tells me that the paper isn't absorbing it quite so much. That one's not too bad, but I think I can do a better version of it just with a couple of layers. Now, if you were buying a really good quality, there's a company called Robertsons, which are based in London, who specialise in a lot of these products. You wouldn't have to do this. You'd be able to paint it on your surface. You'd give it one coat, or maybe you'd be painting over the top of a colour or something else that you've applied, and it'd be good to go straight away. But like I said, I'm trying to show you a slightly more entry-level products so that you get the gist. Now, I can feel that that is tacky. I'm going to give it a tiny blast with the heat gun, or I would do if I hadn't pinned my heat gun down with all the other stuff that I've got on the table. So let's give it a really light dry. Now the drying of it is not going to stop it being tacky, which is an interesting concept, isn't it? You'd think that if I dried it, that would be it. But don't forget, these products are designed to have an open time. So they're designed to stay tacky for a while. And you can probably hear with my finger that still feels sticky. Now let's show you. Well, let's show you with the gilding flakes first, actually, because then we've got something to compare with. Let's pick up something interesting. I can lay these in, look at that, tap them down onto the surface, and they go on really beautifully. Let's get some over here on the top too. So that's working really well with those gilding flakes, nice and easy to apply. I've got some lovely kind of peacocky colours in this. So you can paint your shape, draw your shape, all of those kind of things. Don't worry, I can hear you already shouting, oh yeah, that's great, Ali, if I want it really random, but what if I want it more refined? That's what that little demonstration is all about. Let's move over to this one and let's look at the loose leaf sheet that I've got. I've got a bit of silver here, and I'm just going to tear a piece off. Ooh, and apply it down on there. I can tap it with my finger, or I can use my stencil brush to apply it. Now this is interesting. This starts to give you an insight into how you can control the shape. I'm just going to add something else now. What else have I got kicking around? I've got a bit of, oh, what's that? Something that I haven't looked. It's so hard to file these away neatly. You have no idea. Let's add a bit of gold to that as well. Now, the glue only goes so far on this. So I've got no glue under here. If I stroke this down with my stencil brush, I can fill the gaps a little bit. Let's get it into close up so that you can see what I'm talking about. But it's only going to stick where there is raw adhesive down. So here, for example, can you see that the gold and the silver pieces have overlapped? So the gold isn't sticking to the silver because there's no adhesive there to do it. So if I use my little stencil brush, I can chip away at that and around the edges of my shape, just with a little backwards and forwards style of motion. In fact, it's deciding to come away and then stick itself to the bits of adhesive that are still showing. This is why you need a little bit of patience with it. So let's stick this down. Let's take that bit of leaf as well and stick it over here to the bit of adhesive that's left. But can you see that if I use my stencil brush to chip it away, I can remove it from where there isn't any glue, and it will only stick to the parts where there is glue. So you saw me paint a very rough square shape, didn't you? And then if I go back with my little chippings, let's stick this over here. This can be my little kind of repository for all the excess. Can you see that now I've got that square shape appearing, and because it's only sticking where I put adhesive. That's why you need a stencil brush, but you do need a soft stencil brush. It's not a great idea to use a bristle one or something that is a stiffer consistency, because it's going to damage the leaf, and you want to keep that amazing. Let's get it into the light. There we go. Look at that. Look at that shine. You can still see as well, can't you, that this square over on the right hand side, it's dry, but it's still tacky. You can probably hear under my finger, it's got that sort of sticky quality. But look at that, nice and easy way of getting it down. Now, like I said, I'll come to this one in a second. There is also this style of silver leaf, which is more like a sort of transfer from the point of view that you need to burnish it down. So, and I can never remember which way up this is supposed to be. It's shiny side up. There we go. Asked and answered my own question. It seems like, because it's got, can you see it's got that sort of dull side to it and the shiny side to it. You would think, wouldn't you, that it would have to go that way down, but it doesn't. It needs to go dull side down. Now for this, let's make this nice and simple. We'll chuck it over the top, and this is where your spoon comes in useful. So if I take my spoon and I burnish that, you can already see where it's starting to stick to that adhesive. So we'll burnish this over the top. I'm using a spoon because then it shouldn't, well, I've got a bit of something on it, but it shouldn't scratch this or leave any marks. Traditional burnishers are made out of agate, or you could use like a sort of fake plastic burnisher if you're into crafts. And here we go then. I'm going to peel this away, and hopefully what should happen is, look at that. It has stuck to where there has been adhesive. Now, we have got a bit of a pattern in it, so I could always put extra adhesive over the top, or actually what I will do is I'll give it just a second pass and see if I can fill in some of the holes. Now this, I actually find better if I spend a bit more time laying down my adhesive. Don't forget, I put that adhesive down on a rough watercolour paper, excuse me, and so that's why I've kind of got that ridge pattern. But maybe that's what you want. Maybe you want something a more natural form, or more a kind of broken finish to it, in which case popping it onto watercolour paper and then dragging your gilding paste over the top will certainly give you a better look. Isn't that just a delightful little page of things? But you can direct it. So here I've got my spiral. What haven't I used? Oh, I haven't used copper, have I? Let's do that. Excuse me, reaching across my own workspace. Let's see what we've got in here. So this is the loose leaf kind. You can use a brush to transfer it, or you can use good old-fashioned fingers. I'm going to use fingers to do it. And I'm going to lay that over the top of my spiral. Use my fingers to tap it down. I don't really want to use the spoon to burnish this because it will probably tear it. So I think we'll get my stencil brush involved again. I'm just trying to clear it of all the silver bits that, as you can see, goes everywhere. And we'll tap this down over the top of that adhesive. You can start to see it kind of emerging. Just give it an extra whack just to make sure that I've got it where I want it. I think that's okay. Then I can lift this up nice and carefully. Got a bit of resistance there. Tear that away. That can live to fight another day. And then I can attack this with my stencil brush to kind of get rid of the bits where there isn't any adhesive. Oh, come along. There you go. You can see why it needs to, sort of trying to balance the need for a brush that will tap it all away and but doesn't kind of damage it. And then if we get rid of some of this excess, you can see that I've managed to get an intricate shape just through the application of that gilding paste. Now I've got one more thing to share with you. It's everywhere. I'm definitely going to need to get the Hoover out when I clear up from today. In fact, let's just turn the pad around because I think that'll be easier. I've got less detritus going on here. Now these are all fine and dandy if you want something that's flat, but what about if you want something that's raised, so it's got a kind of a bit more bulk and a bit more substance to it? Now again, there are proper oh look, that page is loose. Let's take it away from the black pad. There are proper products out there for building up a cushion and for priming it properly. I'll let you disappear down that rabbit hole because there's lots of exciting products that you can use to do that. or you can use a glue gun. And using a glue gun with gold is actually quite exciting. And there's variations on this. Again, you can disappear down a rabbit hole looking for variations on this. Couldn't find my cord-free glue gun yesterday when I was prepping for this, so I've just gone for an ordinary one. It has got quite a fine nozzle on it, I will say. It's quite a dinky little glue gun, which does mean I should be able to draw with it a little better than a big sort of whopping great big glue gun. I've got to pull that away to allow the trigger to reload. But let's see if I can get a sort of passable shape out of it in that way. And so you can see that that glue is wet. How do I know that glue is wet? It's wet because it's transparent. When it starts to go a more cloudy version, then I will know that it is starting to harden. So that's going to go down. I've got lots of little stringy bits going on. Let's see if I can do something a bit finer so that it dries a bit faster. Let's go for a sort of a flatter line. It's not quite as good, but it should go off a bit faster. And can you see there, it's starting to go from transparent to opaque. I've just got to be really patient. I'd love to be able to dry this, but as you can see, I've only got a waft and all the gold goes everywhere. It's starting to go off. Now, you would think that something like the burnishing leaf would be good for this, but it's not sticky enough to remove this. I could, of course, go over the top of it with some gilding paste if I wanted to, and then I kind of get the best of both worlds. But actually, for this, the good old metal leaf does pretty well, I have to say. And as I've got a bit of gold in my hand, let's just see. Yeah, this is going off. So I'm going to tap this down over the top. This is such a quick way of applying metal leaf and really quite exciting. If you're into any sort of textile art or any kind of abstract or three-dimensional or things like that, you're going to want to find a glue gun or grab yourself a glue gun. I think I've inhaled some gold. And a bit of metal leaf, and you will soon see why this is so exciting. And of course, I can be quite brutal with it because the glue dries really hard. And so I can use fingers. I don't have to be quite as nice to it as this technique. I'm trying to use my finger to really kind of push it into all the nooks and crannies so you can see what's starting to occur. Apparently, I'm going to be gilded for life. I'm just going to have to live with that, I think. And then again, get my stencil brush involved. And you can see, in fact, I'm going to show you this in the close-up camera because you can take it from something that looks really quite scrappy, but actually with the use of the stencil brush to tuck in the remainder of the leaf and also to clear it up. Look how refined you can get it with actually materials that are not that high tech. I mean, a glue gun, metal leaf is not expensive at all. And you may already have a glue gun, or certainly glue guns. Glue guns are a really good thing to have kind of in your arsenal of tools anyway, because they'll stick anything. But look at that. You can get this amazing, I'm going to shove that over there onto that thinner bit. Look how three-dimensional that is. Isn't that wonderful? And so you can get kind of raised areas. And of course, it doesn't always have to be gold. It could be silver or copper. So maybe you're doing, I don't know, a scene with waves and you want to get really kind of blingy highlights on the top of each wave. Like I said, maybe you're doing something more abstract and you want to add another dimension to it. So a glue gun, a stencil brush, like I said, nylon is better because it doesn't harm the metal leaf quite as much. Or just a stiff brush that has soft bristles. I know that sounds like a sort of dichotomy, but you can see this is quite stiff. But the bristles on my fingers are still quite soft. They're not going to hard the metal leaf. So metal leaf, a glue gun and a stencil brush, and you've got yourself a rather interesting set of techniques. Now, I've got glue coming out everywhere. What I am going to do is just try and capture some of that metal leaf. I know what I can do. I was going to tap it into a bit of kitchen roll that was damp to try to capture it. But actually, if I'm clever and I take my gilding paste pot and then I can get the excess into that pot and it can live to fight another day, can't it? Look at that. So there we have that nice gold. Now, just in case you're wondering what this is over here, there's the one thing that I forgot to tell you. I've got my palette. When I'm using a glue gun, I find that, you know, I've got a stand for my glue gun, or I need to lean it on its side, all kind of variations on a theme. I actually use old instruction manuals. So this is one of those instruction manuals where it comes in 10 different languages and you're never going to read it. So I keep old ones for things, and then I can use this for my glue gun to kind of clean off the nozzle or to rest it on, all that kind of stuff. And it just goes in my little glue gun bag. But it's incredibly useful rather than wasting paper or burning yourself or worrying about kind of resting it on your surface, all of that kind of thing. So just to do a quick recap, let's put it around the correct way. We talked about the difference between using gouache and using something like aqua bronze. Use the difference between kind of gilding flakes on a PVA glue or layering up our gilding paste so that it has that nice open tab. That is still tacky there, look. You can probably hear it. And then using loose leaf, using a burnishing leaf, being able to control it with a fine brush, and then using something like a glue gun to be able to get it down. I now, apparently, for the rest of the day's filming, are going to have very shiny gold fingernails. So I hope that helped. And looking at the comments that are coming in, people are sharing their stories about what happened when they went to New York, which is really cool. I'm going to read through those later. Lovely Joe is saying, love the glue gun idea, given me an idea for my Christmas gift tags. Excellent. And as you will probably have seen, when you've got Christmas gift tags, you usually got quite a few to make, haven't you? Drawing with a glue gun, so much faster as well, rather than having to do it. And lots of people are saying that it's kind of sparking ideas. And I think we'll probably end with Hillary's comment today, which beautifully says, finding out how to use metal leaf effectively is going to be illuminating. And I think we'll leave it there. So thank you so much for joining me today. The next Technique Tuesday happens quite quickly in the month. So July's subject theme for the month is charcoal and graphite. So we're going right back to basics for that. And the Technique Tuesday, which is on the 1st, so you've got to be on the ball for that one. The 1st happens to be a Tuesday in July. I'm going to be going right back to basics with graphite. What they are, what it is, how you can get it, how you can use it, how you can sharpen it, making powders, all of those kinds of things. So I'm hoping to see you then. If you would be so kind, would you be able to share this video with as many people as you can? Gets my name out there and means that more people hear about this wonderful community that we have built up. Thank you all very much for tuning in, for taking the time. No matter whether you are watching live on Catch Up, your company is most welcome. Enjoy the rest of June, won't you? And if you ever get the chance, do get to New York. You'll find it a really wonderful city. Take care, everybody. See you soon.